that Great Britain had come to our shores, when he recognized that there was a navy, an army there, he asked the question, has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world where we live? To call all this accumulation of navies and armies? Do they have an enemy here? And he answered that, and he says, that can't be meant for no other than for us. And what have we proposed then? We've argued. We've been trying that for the last 10 years, Patrick Henry said. We have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming on. What was the storm he was talking about? He said we petitioned, we have demonstrated, we've supplicated, we've prostrated ourselves. To what end? And you might ask the same question. We have 197 mechanized infantry training in northern Montana and the Canadian frontier, along with 2 brigades of British mercenary infantry, the 1st Canadian Armored Division, along with the Gurkha mercenary forces. There are reports of a Belgian brigade there, one of an economic European community mixed security brigade. There are other forces there. There's activity in Montana, in northern Texas, the Panhandle, and in California. What are they preparing for? Why aren't they telling us?
New World Order! What are we doing about it?
So do we find ourselves in the same sort of a situation that Patrick Henry found himself when he said, I repeat, sir, we must fight. And as Patrick Henry looked around, he said, gentlemen may cry peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war has actually begun. Well, at that time, the war had not begun. But the mood was one of war. So, in essence, it had begun. Well, what about the war here? Has it begun?
Yes.
Why should we idle here, Patrick Henry said. What is it the gentlemen wish? What would they have? Now, he crossed his wrist as though he were the one wearing the straitjacket. And then he could only imagine that he said it very gently when he said, is life so dear, or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. That he believed those words, and believed in God. That's why he spoke it. And he turned to stare at the men who opposed him, and that's what he said. I know not what course others may take. And he paused, and he let these words die away. But as for me, give me liberty. Liberty. And when he paused to let those words die away, he lifted his left hand, or his right hand, I guess the case was. And he did form a fist. And it was just as though he held a dagger. But as for me, give me liberty. And when he said, or give me death, he plunged the dagger to his heart, and there was no applause. There was only silence. And I want you to think about that when you're writing your own time. I want you to think about that tomorrow on the broadcast. I'd like for you to think about what Patrick Henry had to say. And think about how he said that, what it meant, what he felt, what people felt and experienced as he said those words. Because we face the same kind of threat today in this country and in this nation they can't do to you what the British wanted to do to the colonists unless they take your guns away from you, and they know it. And they're going to take the guns away from you any way they can, first surreptitiously, and if they can't, then by force. This is not the constitutionally limited republic that the founders gave us. When Franklin burst through those doors, and Mrs. Powell said, "Well, Dr. Franklin, what sort of government did you give us?" Franklin responded by saying, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." This is your constitutionally limited republic, not a representative democracy, as those dastards in Washington at Disneyland on the Potomac would have you believe. I say this to you in the spirit. I'm talking to you in the spirit of my feeling, the essence of what went on here tonight. When I say, as for me, give me liberty, or give me death, because I think we're going to be called to put it on the line. I think there are going to be a lot of offenses. It's not going to be pleasant times. So we must continue to talk and discuss as we are. And let the news media and let this government know that there are patriots in this country that are not going to be rolled over. They're not going to throw themselves into the juggernaut. They're not going to allow this government to become dictatorial and tyrannical and give us what the Bolshevik Revolution gave the Soviets, actually gave the Russians, that turned into the Soviet bureaucratic nonsense that we saw kill how many hundreds of millions of people throughout the world. And it's the same philosophical base that drove Hitler, that drove Stalin, that drove Mao Zedong. And make no mistake about it, that is the philosophical base that is all pervasive throughout the educational system in this country, and it is one that is influencing not only you, but your kids. And the time has come when we have to send the message that we've drawn the line, the Maginot Line, if you will. And when I say train hard, rather train smart. But train, my friend,